Hi guys, I'm Kasha. Welcome to the channel and welcome to our coffee times. Today I thought I would sit down to recommend you a couple of movies that you can watch on the Halloween night or Halloween week, which is this week. So on Halloween week or Halloween night, I do try to watch some of my faves. However, the day only has so many hours, so it is hard to squeeze all of your favorites in one day or one night. That is why in Halloween I love to watch some horror anthologies, because I get different types of stories with different horror genres from different directors, so it's always a lot of fun. Plus, if you're celebrating Halloween with a couple of friends, which this year I know it's hard, it is always so much fun to watch kind of anthologies, so you get like short horror stories. And so here I am going to be recommending you today 10 horror anthologies that you can check on Halloween.
It's coffee time!
Before we go to the list, if you love horror, if you love movies and collectibles, please consider subscribing to the channel and also hit the notification bell. So this list is actually from oldest to newest, and the first one that I would like to talk to you about, I think you can probably guess, but it is Creepshow from 1982. This is directed by George A. Romero, and it is the first time that Stephen King adapted some of his short stories or novels for the screenplay, and he even plays in one of the stories. The practical effects here are done by Tom Savini, which we all know and love, and he also has a cameo. There's different cameos here. The story starts also with Stephen King's son himself, Joe Hill, that also writes horror novels. So in this horror anthology, we have this kid played by Joe Hill that is being punished by his dad because he is reading some horror comics. So there is a total of 5 horror stories here, and they are inspired in horror comics from the 50s, and I absolutely loved it. They're kind of like funny as well. They're kind of like this mix between fun and horror, and they are super different, but I absolutely loved it and it still holds up for me. I rewatched this just last year, and for me it just is still one of the best out there. Next we have Nightmares from 1983. This is an American horror anthology of 4 different stories. We have a woman that encounters a killer in her car. We have a video game addict that, you know, his addiction goes a little bit too far. The third one focuses on a priest that is being chased by a truck, a pickup truck from hell. And the fourth one is about a suburban family that has to fight against a giant rat that they find in their home. Next we have Twilight Zone, the movie from 1983. This was created by Steven Spielberg and John Landis, and this is adapting some of the stories that we got from the television show by Rod Serling. And if you love the Twilight Zone, I would say give this one a try. This anthology is basically a remake of 3 of the episodes from the show, each of them directed by someone different. One is by Spielberg, one is by Landis, and at the beginning they kind of thought that they were going to intertwine all of the stories and some of the characters were going to appear in the 3 stories to try to make them interconnected, but problems with the filming kind of prevented that from happening, which is a pity because I would have loved to see that, especially in a show like the Twilight Zone. But it's still a pretty solid movie, especially for the people that are fans of the Twilight Zone in general. Next we have Tales from the Dark Side from 1990, and this is also an adaptation from a television show by the same name. And we have here 3 stories. We have basically a paperboy that is being kidnapped by a witch, and he tells the witch 3 horror stories while the witch is preparing to eat him. A lot of fun, another great anthology if you have not checked it out. Next we have the American anthology Body Bags from 1993. We have 3 different stories here, one from Tom Arnold, one from Toby Hopper, and one from John Carpenter. And these stories are all related to body bags. So at the beginning we find this coroner that is basically inspecting these body bags, and that's where our stories begin. I really enjoyed this one, and I'm a huge Carpenter fan, so I really did enjoy his story in this anthology. Toby Hopper as well. I mean, these are all well-known people that in all of these movies that I have been recommending, and it is awesome to see them making short stories, because making short stories is so different from a full-length film. So I'm always interested to see what some of my favorite directors or creators in general do with short stories. Next we have Campfire Tales from 1997, another American horror anthology, and this one follows a group of friends that is driving and they end up crashing the car in the woods. Great driving skills right there. And they decide to set up a fire, and they all sit around the campfire and they decide to start telling some horror stories. This is a typical 90s movie, but I absolutely loved it. There's nothing wrong about the campy feeling of 90s movies. So if you have not checked this one out and you love 90s horror, you should maybe check it out. Next we have one of my absolute favorite horror movies of all times, and one that I rewatch every Halloween, and that is Trick or Treat from 2007. And I'm still waiting for part 2. To be honest, sometimes I'm scared that if they do it now, after so many years have passed, it might not be the same, but I have faith in the director. I have faith in his vision, so I would still like to see part 2. But anyways, in Trick or Treat we have 4 different stories. They all take place in the night of Halloween in the same small town, and all the stories are sort of intertwined in one way or another, and this is such a masterpiece, and you get such different stories but they work so well together. And this is one of the best anthologies that I have seen when it comes to connecting everything so well. Like the editing and everything is just fantastic. Like, no wonder this has become a cult film. And if you have not watched this one yet, like, I don't know what you're waiting for, honestly. Like, you have to watch this movie. Next we have The ABCs of Death from 2012, and this one, the stories are extra short because we have a total of 26 stories, and they are made by 15 different directors from all over the world. And basically they were given a blank card. They were like, you have to do a story that starts with A, you have to do a story that starts with B, and so on and so forth. But everything else was up to the directors, and that ended up giving us such a wide range of really short horror stories. And this one is perfect if you have not watched it yet to put it on Halloween night, because you're gonna get everything from every horror genre you can imagine. Now let's go to another one of my absolute favorites, and another one that I have been watching every Halloween since it came out, and that is Tales of Halloween from 2015. These stories, they're so amazing. These are pretty brutal. Some of them are pretty brutal. My favorite one is the one with the candy. If you know, you know. And you will get, again, everything. A little bit of sci-fi, a little bit of gore, a little bit of anything. And this one was also so nice to watch because all of the stories also take place on Halloween night on the same town. And in this one you get a total of 10 different stories, so again, there's something for everybody. And the last one is actually an anthology that I recently watched, that it was on my wish list for forever, and I found it on Amazon Prime, and that is The Guide Field to Evil from 2018. And the reason why I really enjoyed this one is because it was very different from every other anthology that I had watched. This is a pretty serious anthology, and it is made kind of like a fairy tale. Like, every short story starts kind of like with the typical lettering and introduction from fairy tales, and they're all based on folklore from different countries. There is a total of 8 stories, and I'm gonna tell you the countries where they come from. There is a story from Hungary, from Austria, from Germany, from Greece, from India, from Poland, from Turkey, and from the United States. And what I like the most is, like I said, that these are really dark, serious stories, but I love that they're kind of like fairy tale combined with folklore, and they are so different from your typical compilation of horror stories like the other ones that I have mentioned. So if you're looking for something more in the directions of, you know, the witch and those kind of more folklore stories, this might be one that you want to check out this Halloween. Alright guys, so these were my 10 recommendations for horror anthologies. Let me know down below what you thought. Do you also love these ones? Do you have other ones that you would recommend me? I really love to check these ones out. I don't think there are so many out there, so if you know of any that maybe is like a hidden gem, let me know down below. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. I really appreciate the support. Please give the video a big thumbs up, and if you want to follow me in the social media, as always, the links are down below, and I hope to see you all in the next coffee time. Bye.